folks, welcome back to Farming Simulator, and today we're going to have a look at cover crops with precision farming, and particularly which is the most profitable. With Precision Farming 3.0, Giants introduced subsidies with cover crops only for OSR or oilseed radish in particular. So if we look at the help that's built into precision farming for that, which explains it, you will see if you plant a cover crop, it says like oilseed radish, it's actually only oilseed radish during your field, or in your field during the winter. You can earn a subsidy up to €200 per hectare, provided that the field is covered through February. So what that means is if you have OSR in your field growing through the winter, in February in particular, you will get a payment in February, and the up to €200 per hectare is based on game difficulty. If you're playing in hard mode, it's 100. If you're medium, it's 150, and if it's on easy economic difficulty, it is 200. So on my test map made for me by Marnox, I've combined 5 of the fields into one giant field. That makes it really nicely 10 hectares, and we're going to plant OSR, skip time, check, make sure we get as much as I expect. I'm then going to plant grass, and we're going to see how much we can earn from cutting grass and selling it as silage. So it's January, we're going to sleep, and just double check that we get our, wait for it, sleeping takes forever, bear with me. Here we go. It is €1,500 subsidy from our cover crop. So big field, pitiful amount of paid out. Now, is it realistic? I'm not sure, but the other option that we have is planting grass. I'm starting in August. Obviously, this will vary depending on when you plant, or when you've harvested your crop, and what you plan to plant next, as to whether putting in grass is a sensible idea. And we'll talk about whether you should do that or not later on. So what I did is just wanted to check when things growth would happen. Planted in August, planted in September, planted in October, and planted in November. And grass progresses one growth state per month. So by October, our big field was in harvest state 1. And everything was progressing, and basically in November the grass stops growing. So as you'll see, in October I plant a couple more strips, in November I plant a few more strips, and this was just a nice easy visual way of checking how growth is happening, when growth stops and starts, just to be sure, and to look at when grass is knocked back and that kind of thing. Now, as a how many cuts you will get off will depend on when you harvest the crop that's in your field, and when what you plan to plant after it. If you plan to plant a crop in the same year, neither of these is probably a good option. Get your crop in and crack on. Really, this is for a field that's going to be sat fallow over the winter, rather than leaving it empty. Put a cover crop in. You'll potentially make some money. And we'll talk about which crops those are a bit later on in more detail, but you're looking at things like cotton, oats, peas, potatoes, spinach, sugar beets, sugarcane, sunflowers, carrots, corn, green beans, long grain rice, parsnips, sugar beets, beetroot, sorghum, and soybeans. And those are broken up into the month that you want to be planting them, potentially, and therefore how much cover crop you're going to get off of the field. So we're into November. The field we planted in August is at harvest state 2, so maximum growth. I'm going to cut it now, see how much we get. The field we planted in September is at harvest state 1, so you'd get half yield. The field we planted in October is just at growing, so you can't cut it unless you're using weird mods, and I'm not going to count for that. So I'm going to use coarse blade to do the cutting. Not necessarily going to get everything off the field. I'm not worried about that. This is indicative. If you're worried about that, go watch something else. This is to give you a big handfuls feel, and the difference is so big, I don't think it matters. So we'll get course play set up and going. I'm using silage additive because I think it makes sense to silage it. There's some upfront costs, but probably if you're doing this, you're hopefully set up for that. You can get silaging kit relatively cheap anyway. There are cheap bunkers you can use. You maybe have a farm that has a bunker in it already. Leasing mowers, a baler or whatever can be done relatively cheaply. So annoyingly, I didn't have it on swathing mode. But yeah, I'm using the Big M with the PTO and the TARDIS forage wagons because it makes it easier for me to get data. Because this took quite a while with this big field. So you see it's a 50-minute job for course, but I actually used 2 in the end to make it a bit quicker. But anyway, so we'll get this mown. We'll see how much we get off of a full cut. I'm then going to skip time and do a half cut in the spring, and then we'll talk about the results. So a full cut, we got 3 full forage wagons and a partial one. If you want to add these up with me, you can. It adds up to, assuming I did the maths right, 943,589 litres of grass. So a lot. And we'll talk about the exact numbers, but if you're on normal difficulty, that's worth about 200 grand as silage. So pretty nice, to be honest. Pretty nice. And so just going along these, so we've got the September one is at H1, October is growing, and November is at planted, because we've just planted it. There we go. We're now in March, so this is at harvest state 1. I refertilized it, so we're going to get good yield. I just wanted to double check that we still get about half the yield off of a grass field that's in harvest state 1 rather than harvest state 2. Just in case, you never know. Giants, and again, I did the little screw up, but it really doesn't matter with the size of the numbers that we're seeing here. I also didn't go around the field and mow every single little corner and pick up every single blade of grass. One of the big benefits of using a big field is the margin of error is quite nice. If you're worried about that, you can go do this test yourself. I think we've already seen with how much we got versus the £1,500 or euro subsidy we got. Silage pays a lot more if you've got the time to do it. Now, given that you've got to have the OSR in the field till February anyway, you're probably looking at planting a crop in March, and if you're going till March, you're going to get half a cut of grass. Anyway, if you're going until April, you will get a full cut. That's even if you end up planting it in October, November. If you can get it in earlier, so if you get it in August, September, you're going to get a cut before winter. So, if you get it planted August or September, you're going to get a pre-winter cut. If you get it planted in October or November, you're going to get a spring cut. And that's so the reason I'm making this video is I did this on my Let's Play Safe, and I planted in November, and I got a spring cut, and it really surprised me. I got a full spring cut because I was planting corn, which goes in April. So yeah. And this one, so with a bit of rounding, we did get half the amount. So we got 468,192 litres of grass off of the field. So I'll put some numbers up on the screen as we go through now, and we'll talk about the calendar separately in a minute. This footage is pre-canned, so right. Depending on the difficulty level, if you plant early enough to get a full cut, and I'll talk about the conditions that you will get that in a bit, you are looking at, for this 10 hectare field, so you can do a per hectare calculation if you want. So we remember we got 1,500 euros as our subsidy. 1,500, 150 euros per hectare, because we are on normal difficulty. And that would have been 2,000 or 1,000 if we were on easy or hard mode. And I'll put all these numbers up on the screen just in case I've said them wrong as we went through the video. So if we were on easy mode for a full cut, we are looking at £339,000 for a full cut of silage and £168,000 for the half cut. On normal difficulty, 207,000 or 103,000 for the half cut. There's some rounding in here, obviously, because they're not exactly half. And then on hard mode, 113,000 or 56,000 for full or half cuts. So significantly more for silage. Yes, it's a lot more work because you've got to cut the grass, you've got to ferment it, you've got to sell it. But that's so much more. Orders of magnitude more. What conditions are you going to get full or half cuts? So if you harvest in August and you can get the grass planted in August, you're going to get a full cut in November. If you harvest in September or you get the grass planted in September, you're going to get a half cut in November. Any later than that, and you're going to be looking at a spring cut only. And then if you're planting a crop that goes in March, which is going to be, and I'm considering the earliest you want to plant it, so you can harvest early and cycle earlier. You're looking at cotton, oats, peas, potatoes, spinach, sugar beets, sugarcane or sunflowers. If you're planting any of those, you're going to get a half cut in spring. If you're looking at, and these are base game crop calendars, if you're looking at planting carrots, corn, green beans, long grain rice, parsnips, beetroot, sorghum or soybeans, you're looking at getting a full cut in April. And obviously some of these other crops you could plant in April as well if you were happy to wait another month. Then this is for a 10 hectare field, so prices per amount per hectare or for your field will vary, but the relative amount is the same. So, or if you've got animals and you need animal feed, you're getting a cut of animal feed rather than OSR, which gives you nothing. So I think it's pretty clear that grass is a great cover crop. I really miss, actually, always have FS19 seasons where with the crop rotation, you could do grass into corn, into grass, into corn, because you would get a boost in yield from doing that all the way through. And so this is really pleasing for me that this works really well. You can do the same thing. You can do grass into corn, grass into corn, grass into corn, because you're probably looking at, if I can find, let me find the crop calendar. Yeah, because we're looking at probably chopping corn in maybe September or October, depending on when you plant it. So you might get it in early enough to get a cut before winter, but you're definitely getting spring cut because you're not planting it until April. So that works really well if you're doing, if you're doing cows or whatever. You get hay off of the spring cut because you can get a full cut for hay, and then you get silage off the corn. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting, useful, informative. If you did, click the like button, and I'll see you next time.